The creature first made national news in 1958, when construction worker Jerry Crew found and cast footprints measuring 17.5 inches long near Bluff Creek, California, located 86 miles from Eureka. Locals nicknamed the creature Bigfoot, and the name stuck. Over the next decade, national interest in the story mostly faded until October 20th, 1967, when Roger Patterson, an amateur filmmaker, set out to Bluff Creek to do a documentary on a recent footprint discovery. But what Patterson found shocked the world. He shot 953 frames of film that many believe is the best evidence of Bigfoot. You will see that film in its entirety for one of the first times on television. Patterson passed away in 1972, never wavering from his story. But he was not alone on that fateful day.
A massive bicep in the arm was, wide like that. And as it moved, you could see the muscles ripping in the thighs. In the arms, even underneath that hair, you could see the difference in the movement.
Bob Gimlin was with Roger Patterson that day, and for almost 40 years was able to stay out of the limelight and controversy. But in 2004, he did this interview recounting that day in 1967.
The weather was great in October, so Roger said, let's ride back up in some of them areas. We rode up that way, up that creek bed away from our camp, which was probably a couple of miles. As we came around, there's a big downfall tree with a root system in the dirt, like a crow's nest, logs jammed together. As we came around that, then, of course, the horses just blew up, and this thing was standing right alongside the creek, on the opposite side of the creek that we were on. It was massive, and the commotion of trying to get the camera out of the saddlebags while his horse was jumping around. I was watching the creature, and it was walking away. Well, the time we got the horses kind of settled down, and Roger ran across the creek, and Roger had the camera to his eye, and then he stumbled kind of and fell down on his knees, and then he got back up, and he ran over to a log that was a little ways away and stabilized himself on the log. And at that time, I rode across the creek on my horse and just sat over there. The creature makes a turn, slight turn with its shoulders, and kind of looks back. That's when I rode across the creek on the horse. That's when it made that gesture. So I was looking at it from the back. There were some trees or vegetation that was getting between Roger and the creature, and he wanted to get a better and closer. So he relocated, and when he did, he asked me if I would cover him, which meant get the rifle and see, and there was no intent to shoot this thing at all. Then the creature just kept right on walking.
At the time, it was hard for Gimlin to determine just how large the creature was, but he did find footprints.
And people asked me, well, what do you think it weighed? And I thought, well, it takes a big man to weigh 350. So I said, probably 350 pounds. We weren't here when they got an impression gauge, and of course they estimate after that it was 700 or so pounds, or it was tremendously heavier than I'd thought.
Patterson and Gimlin tracked the creature for miles, but never saw it again. And that's where the trail ended and the controversy began.
So much research has been done on the film by both myself and by scientists and by many other people, and everybody who really gets into that film says there's no way that whatever that is a man in the suit.
Over the years, numerous people have come forward claiming they were the man in the monkey suit. However, no one has ever been able to produce proof.
I'm not impressed by the stories of people who've come forward and said that they're the man in the suit. One particular gentleman doesn't even know how to get to the film site.
The controversy continues, and this episode of Monster Quest adds fuel to the fire by analyzing the footage like never before.
The film is just that. The film subject is an image on celluloid.
Owen Caddy is an expert in digital photography, and has acquired the actual 16mm film shot by Roger Patterson.
To my great surprise, there was additional detail that apparently had never been seen before.
Caddy and fellow researcher Richard Knoll will use a high-resolution digital microscope to take a digital photo of each frame from the Patterson footage. If this image is really a man in a monkey suit, seams or fabric could become visible under microscopic examination. If it is a real animal, muscles or other biological identifiers may also appear. Another group of scientists is also looking at the Patterson footage.
Is this gait a human gait? Is it a non-human gait? Is it similar to something that we know or not?
Dr. Jürgen Konczak was an associate director of the Human Sensory Model Lab at the University of Minnesota, when in 2004, he conducted an experiment as simple as taking a walk.
So what you do is, if you're down, you walk like this, and this is exactly what he's doing. This lab is devoted to motor control, to how people, humans, not only walk, but actually are able to move.
One hot topic of internet conversation is the wobbly gait or walk of the Patterson subject. Skeptics say it is a man having difficulty walking in a heavy, bulky monkey suit. But proponents say a human is not physically able to walk like this. The results of this experiment have never been revealed until now.
It seems to be, despite the size, a relatively smooth walk. And it doesn't seem to be like a lot of oscillations in terms of, you know, the center of gravity moving up or down.
Using an optic electronic camera system, Dr. Konczak plans to compare the gait of the figure in the film with that of a human.
Swing your whole arm. Good. And now swing your whole leg. All right, there we go.
Paleoanthropologist Esteban Sarmiento from the American Museum of Natural History in New York is joining Dr. Konczak in the experiment. Sarmiento has studied large wild apes in Africa.
I am totally open-minded as to the question of Bigfoot existing in the Northwest. There has to be something to these reports.
For the test, an athlete with good range and muscle control has been chosen. He will try to match the gait of the creature, while his every movement is recorded frame by frame.
So what we have is these light bulbs that we've attached to some anatomical landmarks. They basically reflect infrared light that is sent out from LEDs next to the cameras. It's been reflected, and then the camera actually picks it up.
The computer then reconstructs the points of light as a three-dimensional figure.
Yeah, we see them all in all cameras, so that's good. His elbow, so this is fine, he has to...
Just bring his elbow
Kinesiology is the study of human movement and is fundamental in developing treatments for problems in the musculoskeletal system. The question before Dr. Jürgen Konczak and Dr. Esteban Sarmiento is, can a human replicate the gait of the thing in the Patterson film?
Is that okay now? Just let's check his legs and then I'll go up and bend his arms.
Tiny bit? Yeah, try to straighten up your back just a tiny bit.
Yeah, that's it. What we're gonna do with this arm is we're gonna just pick up your shoulder just a little bit. Okay? Yeah. Does that look a little bit better?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, lights off.
Recording. Move.
He's like a big plasticine.
He's like a big plasticine doll. Right there, he's up. He's got his. See that? Yeah, he's up off the. Right there, he's totally up. That's, you see, like right there. It's just like as high as he's ever going to come. Right. And now he's going to like actually bring his leg through.
The most telling problem is in the subject's knee movement.
Yeah, that has to be back when
There's
it means.
one sequence of frames in there, I think we're pretty good, and where you clearly see that there is this lateral rotation at the knee, and where the foot is kind of like, you know, going outward, this, which is called eversion. And that is something that it seems rather strange.
At Snellgrove Lake, Ontario, where men tread seldom, there is a cabin. As strange as it sounds, This cabin has allegedly been violated more than once by a large unknown animal, believed to be a Sasquatch. But this is not the first account of an aggressive Sasquatch.
Albert Ostman lived fairly close to my home, and I got to know him very well. I've interviewed him numerous times.
John Green is a retired Canadian journalist and a leading researcher into the Bigfoot phenomenon. He is a graduate of both the University of British Columbia and Columbia University, and has a database of more than 3,000 sighting and track reports, earning him the nickname Mr. Sasquatch. While researching his book Sasquatch, The Apes Among Us, Green interviewed Canadian outdoorsman Albert Ostman, recording his detailed and strange account. Ostman claimed he was kidnapped and held captive by a family of Sasquatch in 1924 while he was prospecting in British Columbia, Canada. This is the actual audio recording of Ostman's account made in 1966.
I was out on a prospecting trip. I was in, I think it was about 6 or 7 days. Then I was camping at the place there. And they began to bother me at night there. I thought first there would be porcupines or probably bear or something, but evidently it was something else. And that went on for about 3-4 nights. And finally one night I was picked up in my sleep and carried away. He carried me for, I don't know, probably 3-4 hours. Then I was let down in a valley where, of course, it was dark, you know. I heard a lot of chatter around. So a little after 4 o'clock in the morning when he let me down.
Ostman claimed the creature carried him in a sleeping bag, which also contained food supplies and his rifle. Ostman didn't feel threatened by the strange creatures, but he also didn't feel free to leave, so he settled in and made his own camp.
Finally, when it got lighter, I noticed these people around me, 4 of them, 2 big ones and 2 small ones, but they were all covered with hair and no clothes. Never bothered me. Evidently they had some reason why they wanted me there. I had enough wood gathered up so I cooked coffee. And I guess the aroma from that brought him near, and he was sitting about 10 feet away from me when I was drinking my coffee. And then I opened a box of snuff, you see. And when I opened that and took a pinch, you know, he reached out for it, you know. And he emptied it right in his mouth. And he swallowed it. And that didn't feel very good, you know. Tastes very good, I guess. So, and then he had to have something to drink, I guess. So he grabbed that and he drank the coffee can, ground and all.
As a result of the snuff and the coffee, the beast ran off, likely looking for water. That's when Ostman made his escape.
It's not a story that anybody would be inclined to believe today. The problem is that the descriptions that he gave of these individuals have been consistently supported throughout the years by subsequent observations.
For Meldrum and Nelson, bad weather may have hampered last night's efforts. It is already late on day 3, and Meldrum is anxious to pick up Nelson from his remote camping spot.
I'm glad to see you guys.
Yeah, I bet. Must have been a fun experience.
Oh, it was neat, but it rained a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. I had the camera traps out.
It is the team's final night at Snellgrove Lake. After 3 days of noise and foraging, they are still holding out hope for an encounter. The huge fire acts as a beacon, its glow visible for miles. The team is waiting with infrared and thermal cameras to see into the night. They are ready, or so they think. At around midnight, without warning, something happens.
They were probably watching us this whole time.
Of course they were.
Something has thrown a rock at the camp.
Did you hear that?
That rock was pretty good size. I'm still shaking. It sounded to me like it hit from that side and hit this.
I thought it came over the crest into this side.
Walk to the edge of the building. No, please. Let's stay here. We've had action now. We've had rocks thrown at us.
Throughout history, the Canadian wilderness has been home to hunters, trappers, and explorers. It may also be home to a monster.
People now, the general population has more knowledge of the subject as a whole, and now people can, without too much difficulty, find someone to actually report it to, whereas in the past, no one had any idea who to report something like this to.
The Sasquatch is similar to other creatures seen around the world, but is also different. The Yeti is said to be a quadruped, or an ape that moves on all fours. The Almasti is a Russian wild man that is more like man than ape and uses fire. Sasquatch is more like an ape or unknown primate. Most reports also point to how elusive and shy these animals are, avoiding human contact, but not always.
Sasquatch sightings happen when they come close to people, not the other way around.
Most eyewitness encounters end as suddenly and harmlessly as they began, but not at Snowgrove. Eyewitnesses claim this beast does not seem to like visitors.
Oh, I don't know what would make that sound. I wasn't that close to it, but I really heard it. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it.
Without warning, a rock flies out of the woods and hits the cabin.
One of us was urinating off the porch when the first stone hit the side of the cabin.
This rock on the side of the building was bang. And it's scary. It's amazing. It's always stuff you hear about that doesn't happen to you. I've been in the woods a lot, I camped a lot, and I was out in the woods all by myself last night.
Camera crews scan the immediate area with the night vision and thermal cameras as the team retreats into the cabin.
This is weird.
This is quite exciting, I have to admit. I've not experienced anything quite this dramatic before.
One crew member threw a rock back into the woods, only to have another rock thrown back.
And that was followed shortly after by a rather larger rock bouncing down the roof of the cabin. This is quite distinct. Obviously, there's nothing in the woods that's recognized anyway that can lob rocks in that fashion.
And we're all together. I'm with everybody, so I know that it's nobody goofing around.
While one cameraman scouts around the area, the rest of the team lock themselves into the cabin for the night.
We came in from outside, and we're cowering in here. I'm afraid for the first time, and it was for sure a rock, and it was for sure on the roof of the building.
Yeah, so we're back inside the cabin at the moment. We've turned down the lights inside, and so we can get a better view through the windows and just see if anything goes through our line of sight.
The morning could not come soon enough for Meldrum, Nelson, and the entire crew. And at first light, the camp's owner, Chuck Mossback, has returned to fly the crew out.
What happened? We really had some action last night. Yeah, it was amazing.
An examination of the area reveals no tracks or other evidence, but whatever hit the roof that night may still be there. Only primates use tools as weapons. Rock and stick throwing is common in chimps and great apes.
Good throwing rock.
Whatever or whomever threw the rocks at the cabin is never revealed. But Meldrum and Nelson leave with an ample supply of blood, hair, and tissue from the screwboard.